Hello and welcome back to the Nasty Metal Production channel, great YouTube, and welcome to another Friday review. Today I am reviewing Denial to Fall, which is the third full-length album from Greek heavy metal / power metal band Spitfire, and it was released through No Remorse Records on January 21st. So, I guess without further ado, let me get into my overall thoughts on Denial to Fall from Spitfire. Let's get into it. Okay, so before I really get to any of my overall thoughts, even at times even backstory and everything for Spitfire and this album, you know what I have to do? I have to do a track listing rundown so I can tell you folks what are the songs are on this album, how many songs are on this album, and what is the time length for this album. And since we have at least about 9 songs here, it all clocks in at least at 44 minutes and 5 seconds. So these 9 songs are beginning with Stand and Fight, Wasted, which is not a Def Leppard cover, the title track, Unholy, which is not a Kiss cover, Ready to Attack, On My Own, Many Lies, Naked Fire, and then finally ending with Back to Zero. So there's your 9 songs. Now, Spitfire, if you're not completely familiar with these guys, again, they were formed all the way back in 1984, and again are based out of Athens, Attica. Hope that's pronounced correctly, Greece. And they obviously got at least signed to the, I guess, EMI's Greek department, their section, because of EMI obviously had plenty of just overall places and whatnot around the world, ports and whatnot, that at least that was all focused on those scenes. So they technically were signed to a pretty major label from the beginning, and that's how we got their very first album in 1987 titled First Attack. Which is still considered, when it comes to Greek metal, one of the premier heavy metal albums that come out of Greece within the 80s. It's actually, again, it's one of the most popular Greek metal albums of all time. So Spitfire were kind of onto something, but the thing is that they kind of were thrown on a little bit of a, I guess, something that didn't work. Something just happened, and it obviously seems to really pinpoint to the fact that their vocalist, hope I'm going to pronounce this all correctly, Dinos Kostakis, ended up, and at least in 1986, ended up at least, he somehow, I think, he went into a coma after being a part of a fatal car accident. And again, the album got released a year after he had already been in a coma. So I think it really kind of halted the band's, at least their momentum, because they probably had to find at least someone to kind of fill in those dates, but it just seemed to have not been the same, because of, he was obviously the voice for their band and that album, and was one of the big highlights of that record was just his voice in general. And I think it definitely hindered the band in many ways. And from there, eventually 2 years later, he would recover from the coma. He would come out of it. However, he didn't really continue with music. He just basically that was it. But sadly, on October 5th of 2016, he ended up passing away. So it's really kind of a sad tale for him. But really, because of that car accident that happened to, of course, their original vocalist there, for, again, who sang on the First Attack album, it really seemed to have been one of the really big, just those misfires for the band. It really I don't know if that's a right word to use, but it did really kind of shorten the band. And it didn't keep, and in many ways, I think they tried to continue on. I mean, they released a live album in 1990, and then, of course, releasing demos within, 1996, 97, and then 98, but none of those really kind of garnered any sort of, any more label interest into them until 2009 with, of course, the Die Fighting album, which is probably the only album with I'm just looking up here, with, of course, a singer by the name of Hannibal, though no relation to the very idiotic wrestler of the same fucking name, though probably, obviously, name probably being inspired by, of course, Hannibal Lecter, maybe. But that's the only album with him on vocals, and eventually they probably, again, it became more of I guess, a revolving door of vocalists until finally falling on, of course, hope I'm going to pronounce this guy's name correctly, Tassos Crocodilos. I hope I pronounced all that correctly. If I butchered that, I apologize. But still, they get him. And again, the only original guy left in the band is Elias Loganidis. I hope I pronounced his name fucking correctly. Jesus Christ. Either way, he's the only original member left. Most of the guys are either brand new or been there since 2007. But this is his first album with, of course, Spitfire. Again, speaking about Tassos there. He is the newest addition to the band. This is his first album singing for them. And again, he's definitely no Dinos Kostakis, but he's definitely got a very nice voice to him. He's able to really carry a lot of the songs on here, which range from at least of being very heavy, but still very melodic, heavy metal / power metal numbers. They are still very heavy. They got plenty of hooks to them. They got plenty of great leads, everything. And his vocal performances on the album, he really is able to really carry a lot of these songs. Again, at times it reminds me a little bit of Mike Howe. Again, the late Mike Howe of Metal Church at times. He reminds me of him. But again, if he was singing over at least a very melodic, almost European power metal kind of sound. But still, this is definitely great European power metal. At times, reminds me of some classic Halloween in there. And that's really heard, especially in the songs, like, for example, the first 3 songs, which are really, I would say, are some of the strongest songs on the album. I mean, again, talk about kicking off the album in a bang. Again, 3 songs there. Again, Stand and Fight, Wasted, and, of course, the title track. Both are great. The title track probably being the more straightforward heavy metal song that really recalls to the glory days of old Saxon, especially classic Saxon at times. Mostly maybe something you would have heard at least off of, for example, maybe one that just comes to mind would probably have to be Dogs of War or something, or again, a Solid Ball of Rock. It's just a very standard sort of heavy metal riffing, but at the same time, it's very infectious and it's catchy, and I dig it. It's got hooks to it. But still, from there on, we still get plenty of other really good fucking songs on the album. Again, like Unholy, or Ready to Attack, or even the more melodic On My Own, to, of course, Many Lives, which definitely plays around with more kind of, a little more bluesier kind of stuff, but still, it's not like your standard, typical cut rate style blues sort of notes. Instead, it's just something that really adds a kind of give the song its own feel. Same thing with, of course, Naked Fire, which at times kind of plays around with more of a Accept or a UDO style German heavy metal romp or something, and even something to expect from Accept. You know, it's kind of that sort of pacing, that kind of riff style and everything, and it works, and it just, again, it fits along with the album. But then, of course, it ends with probably my 4th really favorite song off the album, that being Back to Zero. It's a more of a mid-paced track, but it's just got a ton of groove to it, and a great hook, and it's a great track, and it's a great way to end the album. So there we go. I mean, there's really nothing bad on here. Production, everything is fucking great. Everything's crunchy. Everything sounds fantastic. You can hear pretty much most of the guys in the band. Again, Tasso's vocals is very much put up right in the front of the mix. It's just everything's good about here. It elevates the songs and it gives them a lot of power. So there's nothing really bad on here. It's just a really solid traditional metal album from Spitfire, one of the original Greek traditional heavy metal bands. So there we go. It's just a fantastic album. At least, I wouldn't say fantastic, but it's definitely a great album from beginning to end. So a lot of just kudos to them. It's a lot of great stuff on here. It's really nothing bad. So I'm just gonna shut up and go along. So there we go, folks. There is my overall thoughts on Denial to Fall from Spitfire, and as far as my rating. Originally, I had it rated down to an 8.85. However, the thing is, I like it quite a bit, and the thing is, my last review at least the last thing that I reviewed on this channel, which is that Cruel Bomb EP, I gave that one an 8.85. So I don't want to repeat the rating again. So instead, I'm going to be generous, and I'm going to up to an 8.95 out of 10. So there we go, folks. Say 8.95 out of 10 for a pretty, I thought, is a really good, solid metal album from these guys. And I think it's definitely solid enough to where I can recommend it to all of you. If you haven't heard of Spitfire, I've never heard this album, and you want to check on some brand new traditional heavy metal albums from, of course, this year, this is a very good album to check out. I will do my best to leave you a link to where you can at least get this album. You can check it out on YouTube. It should be on there. So there we go. But if you have heard this album since it's been out since January 21st, you can leave your overall thoughts, whether it be positive or negative, in the comment section below. So with that, hope all of you enjoyed. This is Heavy Thrash saying I'm out, and I'll see you all later. Take care, everyone.